All right, let's bring in our table right now to talk about where we are right now in this conversation in Washington. Jeannie Zaino back with us. Jeannie, political science professor at Iona College with a focus on polls and polling data. We'll get into some numbers later on in the show. Dominic Carter, we always know him here, political journalist and author. Also with us tonight, Dina Dariotis. She a board member of New Yorkers Against Gun Violence and a former staffer for New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. And we met Andrew earlier in the show, and I'm curious, we heard from the governor, your old boss. Do you think that after more than 3 months after the tragedies of Newtown and all the national dialogue, and 91% of Americans for this, that maybe, just maybe, we can actually get a vote in the Senate? And then who knows what will happen in the House? Does he think today was a victory for gun safety measures in this country, or does he think that Washington came up really short today?
Well, I can't speak for the mayor.
Yes.
I can't speak for the mayor, but as an advocate and as somebody who's been involved in the movement, you have to look at this in the historical context of where we've been in the gun control movement. Prior to Newtown, we couldn't get anybody, Democrat or Republican, to utter the word gun, right? Not even nobody, not President Obama,
But sitting
not
in that
anybody.
chair last night was Chris Shays, and he co-authored the original assault weapons ban. We go back to '94. We actually got that thing through. And we didn't have Newtown then. We didn't have Virginia Tech. We didn't have Aurora. We didn't have 3,500 people who've died in this country at the end of the gun just since Newtown. Forget about Washington for a minute. Have we just set our sights so ridiculously low that we have to consider today's success?
Look, our job's not going to be done after today. The unfortunate thing that we're dealing with here is that in the states, like we did in New York, we actually passed a comprehensive piece of legislation. It'd be great if Washington could follow our lead and Connecticut's lead. Unfortunately, as you can see, they can't even tie their shoes half their days. No, I wouldn't say we take what we can get. I say we live to fight another day, and we've moved the needle on this issue.
But Andrew, we just heard the senator saying, hey, an amendment, I'm going to put in an assault weapons ban. Does he have a greater chance of legalizing unicorns and whatever else? The chances of that getting through, right?
People generally like unicorns, so I think, there would be better. Look, the senator was talking about defeating the filibuster tomorrow. He wasn't talking about passing the bill, much less passing an assault weapons ban or the extended ammo clip. I mean, this is just getting 60 votes so that they can open debate and then have an up or down vote on some of these things. It really doesn't look like we're going to get much more than background checks and maybe straw sales in all of this. But, assault weapons, extended ammunition, no way.
No chance.
No way.
Dominic,
And don't forget, there's also the House. The Speaker
we haven't
Boehner
even got to that point. The president spent a lot of political capital on this, maybe without risk or downside, but still he went out there. He went to Connecticut, he went to Virginia, he went to Colorado, he went before the nation, used basically most memorable points in the State of the Union were on this subject, and he just pled for a vote, just a vote. And the NRA even blessed that, and even with that, this thing might not even get an up or down vote in the House. So I guess my question is, does the White House say, okay, at least we got something today, or do they look at this thing and say, I don't know what we did or didn't do, whether it's our fault or not, but this turned out a lot, we got a lot less than I thought we would, if this is the best deal that they can get through the Senate right now.
Those of us that support gun control, Richard, we may not like what happened today, but I tend to agree with your argument. The fact that the president can say that he delivered something accounts for accomplishment in this case. So this president who used his political stock to deliver on this, we may not like it fully, but he did deliver on something.
Gina, you look at numbers for a living, okay, in terms of polls, et cetera. I don't remember an issue that's branded as controversial like guns, or whether it's the issue of choice, or whether it's whatever, the hot button, that 91% of Americans agree on. 3/4 of the NRA agree on a universal background check, without exceptions. Why, if the math usually dictates the political principle, when it comes to politics, why is this one so different, you think?
Because we're dealing with the U.S. Congress. And Andrew mentioned the House, you mentioned the House, the Senate as well. These people have to run in primary elections. This is not about national public opinion. And that's where people get, confused. you had 88% of Americans, of gun-owning Americans support universal background checks. Over 90% of Americans. Those are national polls. To understand the debate in Congress, you have to look at local, district by district, state by state polls and see where people land. That tells you where in fact we're going to be. That's where the math is. And that's what's been the confusion here. And that's true on many issues. But another number I will go back to that I thought was very effective today was the 3,300 people killed since Newtown of gun violence. That is shocking when you think Newtown was in December of last year. You hear that number, and that is a shocking number, and you think, wow, that should have more of an impact than it does, but it doesn't, because these people are thinking primary election, I've got to win a primary.
And I think finally, Dina, it's not a coincidence the two people whose names are on the bill right now. The Democrat, Senator Manchin from West Virginia, had an A rating from the NRA. He knows if he doesn't get out ahead of this with, I guess, terms that are acceptable back home, he's going to have a problem. And conversely, you got Senator Toomey, who many people say is right of Attila the Hun, but on this issue, he's got to go back to Pennsylvania, which is more so than not a blue state, and come back with something that's not extremely conservative against everything on guns. It kind of says a lot who are the two people shepherding this, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. Especially in a place like Pennsylvania and West Virginia, there's a lot of gun owners, and so these two individuals have credibility in that community. So of course it makes sense that they would be the face of this, and that's totally fine. But the point is there has to be a vote so that we can hold people accountable.
Okay,
You know,
and
and
whether
that's
we get the up or down vote is what we're going to be talking about when we come back here. From Newtown to this, now I think maybe it's been too long here since the horrors at Sandy Hook and that whole 5-week rule here, usually when it comes to politics and media, that the public doesn't forget about it, but they move on to other things. Well, December 14th, imagine the conversation we're having if it was the day after those shootings. Would we really be saying some of the things that we're hearing some lawmakers say about doing just a background check? We're going to talk about that and more after this.